Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review for day 18 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. So today we're going to take a look at um, a, a fairly related movie to the Halloween season, at least by title, um, and that is the movie Trick or Treat. Now, we're not talking about the Trick or Treat from the 80s, the heavy metal movie called Trick or Treat. We're not talking about Trick or Treat from 2007, the awesome Halloween horror anthology. This is actually a 2019 British um, thriller movie. It's less of a horror movie, more of a thriller movie. But when I saw the title Trick or Treat, I thought I'd take a chance on checking this one out. So I added it to my collection and decided to watch it and review it for this 31 Days of Halloween horror series here. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So, Trick or Treat from 2019. Um, it's a British horror thriller movie. I still put horror in there, but it's really more of a thriller, crime thriller movie. So basically, the film is the synopsis is Greg's estranged brother Dan turns up out of nowhere and claims that he has accidentally run someone over while drunk. The victim may have been a gangster's son, but it seems that something even more sinister has already been set in motion. So that's basically the synopsis, the setup and premise for Trick or Treat from 2019. This movie came out on October 25th, 2019, so right before Halloween. It was directed by Bosey, Edward Bosey. The screenplay by Geraint Anderson, music composed by Tristan Norwell, and the producers were Craig Kelly, Geraint Anderson, and Hank Stars. As far as the cast of this movie goes, we have Craig Kelly as Greg Kilty, Dean Lennox Kelly as Dan Kilty, Frances Barber as Miss Ferguson, Jessamine Bliss Bell as Karen, Jason Fleming as the taxi driver, Mamie McCoy as Gemma, and Sean Parkus as Clarence. So, if you haven't heard of a lot of those names, it's because they are British actors, I believe, for the most part. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the crime thriller. I'm going to call it Trick or Treat from 2019. So I'm not going to say this is a terrible movie. It's not quite as good as the other Trick or Treat that I have in my collection. Um, but I enjoyed it for what it is, which is a crime thriller movie, and think along the lines of The Game from the 90s with Michael Douglas, or even April Fool's Day to a certain extent. It kind of plays on that sort of idea with a different holiday. So let's start out talking about the things that I liked about this Halloween thriller movie. There is a decent amount of Halloween atmosphere, especially at the beginning of the movie, the first 20 to 30 minutes, I would say. It is Halloween night as the film opens, so you get some trick or treaters, you get some Halloween decor. So that's kind of nice. It does have sort of a Halloween atmosphere to open up the movie to kind of get you into the feel of it in the season. I enjoyed the setting of the at night lit up amusement park in the background as well. Even though it really has nothing to do with the movie, it's nice to look at. Um, it's just fun. It's just a fun background. You got the lit up roller coaster tracks and all the different amusement park areas. So that's kind of their constant backdrop between scenes, almost like an editing trick to a certain extent. So I thought that was pretty cool. The performances were really quite good too, especially by Dean Lennox and Craig Kelly. Dean Lennox Kelly and Craig Kelly, who are, I believe, are real brothers in real life, and obviously they play brothers in this movie. They did a good job. They had good chemistry together, so it's not surprising that they might be brothers in real life. But in their scenes together, I think those were the best scenes because of the chemistry that they had together, both from a dramatic and from a humor comedy standpoint. The overall characters were fairly interesting and decently written in the movie, which you often don't get that in horror movies, but even thriller movies, you don't always get that. So that was nice to see, especially the main characters, as I mentioned, Dan and Gray Kilty, the two brothers, Miss Ferguson, and Clarence. I thought they all did a good job, and those characters sort of stood out in terms of having a little bit of backstory and some intrigue as well to those specific characters. I like the bits of humor and comedy that were injected into the movie. It's not an overly, I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror comedy. It's definitely a crime thriller, but there are comedy elements within the movie, and I thought they landed pretty well. Especially related between Dan and Greg Kelty, the two brothers. There's a little bit of slapstick comedy. Yeah, overall, just the right amount of comedy and humor I thought in the movie to really make it stand out while not being overly silly. The movie does have some fun twists and turns within the movie to where the view to as the where you're the viewer, you're not quite sure where it's going to go or what this is all about, which makes for kind of a fun movie. You don't want to have it all predicted right off the bat, and I certainly didn't. It just makes for a fun and intriguing time and a fun watch. So, and then finally, I enjoyed the music and the score in the movie. It kind of has some trippy beats with sort of an upbeat mystery movie score feel to it. I thought it worked very well for the movie. So, yeah, overall, I just had a decent time with it, even though it wasn't quite the horror Halloween movie that I thought it was going to be by the title, or even reading some of the synopsis to begin with. It was still I still had a good enough time with it where I wouldn't say this was a dumpster fire, and I probably will pull it out of my horror collection and put it with like my regular movie collection. I have with some other thrillers that I've watched and reviewed on my channel. Because I don't think it really falls into a horror standpoint or even like a horror thriller standpoint. I think it's more of like a crime thriller, a little bit more like something like Seven. Now, I'm not saying it's as good as Seven. It certainly isn't, but um, I don't have Seven in my horror collection. That's out in my the rest of my movie collection. So just wanted to bring that up. As far as cons go, obviously it's not a particularly scary or creepy movie as I thought it was by the title and the synopsis. It's much more of a crime thriller movie, so not a lot of suspenseful moments or scares within the movie. That part was a little disappointing. It doesn't really take place as much on Halloween as it does November 1st. So the movie opens on Halloween night, October 31st, like the first 20 minutes or so, but then it kind of goes through the rest of the night, which would be more November 1st. So they didn't really hit on the Halloween holiday as much as I thought they were going to or was hoping. Um, so yeah, it's not quite as much of a horror Halloween thriller. So I was kind of disappointed in that aspect. And then the end of the movie as well was, again, if you're familiar with the game from the 90s or April Fool's Day to a certain extent, you kind of know what I'm saying. And when I say the ending was kind of a cop out, it kind of went in the direction of those movies to a certain extent. Not entirely the same. It does have sort of its own twist on the twist, if you will, which doesn't make it quite as much of a, I don't want to say happy ending, but quite as where everything is sort of resolved at the end, if you will. I think that's the best way to say it. But yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't my favorite way to end the movie, the direction that they took. But as I said, for the most part, overall, I was entertained enough with the movie. And then plot wise, there's just some things that really didn't work throughout the movie, looking back, in terms of conveniences and having a certain main character have these sort of visions that he gets. And that's about the only Halloween slash horror aspect there is to the movie, where he has these flashes of seeing like a Grim Reaper at certain points of the movie. But as it turns out, it's not quite the Grim Reaper that you think it is initially. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, this is going to be a shorter review. There's just not really that much to say about it. As a thriller, like a crime thriller movie, it is a movie worth checking out that I would recommend. As a horror movie, a Halloween horror movie or a Halloween thriller movie, you can miss it and be okay. It doesn't really hold up on that level. But for what it is, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a fairly interesting um, crime thriller movie. Just take it out of your horror expectation standpoint. You'll be okay with it. So 7 out of 10 for the latest movie entitled Trick or Treat from 2019, the British crime thriller film. 7 out of 10. Go ahead and comment if anybody has seen this movie. I think it's a little bit more obscure, especially in the States, probably. But if you've seen it, go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of it. Did you like it or not? Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my reviews for this series. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming horror content. Beyond this series and into next year, I have a lot of great stuff planned. So thank you for watching this day 18 horror movie review for 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. Hope your October's going well and stay scared. Bye.